Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, to hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets. Cause we know who we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here and stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. Tell 'em I can't take no loss. My team hold nowhere else, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
Here we go. Here we go into the weekend. I think me screwing with the microphone and knocking stuff around discordantly should become a signature of our show.
No.
No?
Probably not.
We'll discuss it. Here we go, into the weekend. Into the weekend we go. And we are watching a ton of stuff. I mean, I have so much stuff to get to today, but we are watching a ton of stuff as well. Some of the stuff I'm not going to get to that we are watching. Trump calls Putin just hours before his meeting with Zelensky. You guys may have known Zelensky's was to meet at the White House. Trump called Putin hours before. We don't know what they talked about necessarily, but the talks definitely centered around the Tomahawk missile systems that we are reportedly going to be selling to countries to give to Ukraine for their defense. Putin probably didn't like that much. There might be other stuff. I think Putin really just wants to get Trump back on messaging. Trump has strayed from the messaging recently, been talking tough. And I think Putin just knows that, well, if I'm the last person to talk to Trump, he'll parrot my talking lines, my talking points. So let's try this. And Trump is all about it. He's all about trying to make a deal or find out what Putin might be offering to get tougher with Zelensky once again, maybe have a repeat of the abomination that was the first meeting with Zelensky with J.D. Vance and Trump attacking him. Well, Putin certainly would love an outcome like that. U.S. and China, our trade war, it's escalating. It's escalating. It's now escalating into critical minerals and agriculture. It's escalating. Both sides threatening retaliatory raising of tariffs. Not going to buy this, not going to buy that. Hurt your economy, hurt your farmers, hurt your miners, the mining industry. That's ramping up. The Israel-Gaza ceasefire. There are tensions. We specifically, purposefully, did not dive right into that. We wanted things to play out a little bit, and unfortunately they are. There is tension over the bodies of Israelis that were to be returned. Hamas is having a problem finding some. They have a problem getting the excavation equipment necessary to dig out these remains from some of these massively bombed areas. Go figure. You flatten the entire area, they might have problems finding things. So it's playing out, but the tensions are rising. We'll see what happens with this ceasefire. Bolton. Okay. He's indicted. Wasn't like some massive prognostication. That's where this was going, and it's where we are now. John Bolton has been indicted. There's a court appearance. I wanted to do the whole story. I wanted to give it due diligence. So we're going to get into that probably Monday or Tuesday when we can really sink our teeth into, but Bolton's been indicted. And the protests, National Guard, ICE deployments, protests around the country, and a big one, the biggest possibly ever in this country, No Kings. No Kings is Saturday. We talked about it yesterday. We're going to talk about just a little bit more today. And we're going to focus a little bit today on some of the reactions and the talking points of the right. But it's happening. It's happening. No matter how you feel about them, no matter what the sycophants are saying out of the White House, it's happening. It's happening. I was telling you over 2,000 events, around 2,500 events are planned in all 50 states. Every single state has this rally represented. That's amazing. Amazing. I read you their call to action. They said, together millions will send a clear, unmistakable message. We are a nation of equals and our country will not be ruled by fear or force. Love that action. Love it. And this is a coalition. This is a coalition. Now you can go to nokings.org, find out where the rally near you is. But this is a coalition. The American Civil Liberties Union, the American Federation of Teachers, 50501, Human Rights Campaign, Indivisible, Move On, all these organizations are taking part, organizing this, making this happen. We thank you. We thank you for your efforts. This is going to be amazing. Now, White House spokesperson, smart mouth, and notable degenerate Abigail Jackson, some of the more distasteful things I quote to you from this show are from her. She said the Trump administration is focused on stopping the scourge of left-wing violence plaguing American communities. Left-wing protesters can be clown themselves. Scotty and I went and looked that up. That is to make a clown of yourself. That's what we figured it was, but let's just be sure. That is to make a clown of yourself. Left-wing protesters can be clown themselves by lawfully protesting the alternate reality they live in, but violence or breaking the law will not be tolerated. That is exactly what they hope happens. Violence, law breaking. I'm going to urge you for the first time and not the last this show, please do not be violent. I know only a small portion of the 5 million plus people that are going to be taking part in these rallies are watching my show right now. But for those of you who are, please be peaceful. Violence is what they want. I'm not guessing. I'm not theorizing. I know, and you know, violence is what they want. Period. They want to seize the Insurrection Act and shake it and see what falls out. Shake it as hard as they can. Any violence will help them do that. Tom Emmer, Mike Johnson, Steve Scalise, they're calling it the Hate America Rally. We're going to hear from some of them. Senator Roger Marshall said the National Guard will need to respond to protesters. Hopefully it will be peaceful, but I doubt it. Okay. Thanks for that, Senator Roger Marshall, Republican out of Kansas. That's helpful. Now, Leah Greenberg, she's a co-founder of Indivisible. I mentioned them. They're one of the groups that are really leading this charge for the No Kings rally. Big part of it. Leah Greenberg said the fact that they're trying to smear millions and millions of Americans who are fed up with the dictatorial actions of the Trump administration as the reason why they themselves are unable to govern is just another demonstration of their own panic, their own desperation, and the fact that they know they are on the losing end of this fight. I don't know if they're on the losing end of it just yet. But this rally's a big step in the right direction. A big step in the right direction. Senator Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat out of Maryland, he said he looked forward to No King's Day, saying the GOP, listen to this. Chris got creative here. Chris said the GOP was the same kind of weasels who would have called George Washington and America's revolutionaries terrorists. He said Republicans spend their days sucking up to King Trump and demonizing peaceful protests, just as some in America sought to appease King George III. way to really seize on the spirit of what we're doing here, Chris. I like that. I like that. And by the way, Home of the Brave, which is a nonprofit organization supporting this, they have spent $1 million on an ad campaign to promote these rallies. $1 million. Love it. Love it. So New York, Chicago, Houston, Seattle, Philadelphia, Washington, Los Angeles. Now, Boston had the biggest crowds last time, but that was mixed in with a gay pride parade. That was a pride parade there. LGBTQ pride parade was mixed in with it. So giant numbers in Boston. They're hoping to, replicate that for sure. Don't forget in Syracuse, Rod and Aunt Sandy will be there. Hopefully I'll have pictures of that. He says I will. He says I will. Now, let's hear from the this is the Hate America crowd. The people who are saying that this is the Hate America rally. That's the talking point. They've all jumped on it. They're all on branding. They're all on messaging. Say what you want about the GOP, but they get in lockstep with their messaging every time.
He's doing it for himself.
Can you make a 5-second prediction here for us? How long does this go on?
I hope it ends soon. I don't think it will end before the Hate America rally on the mall on Saturday, where all the Marxists and Antifa people and all the people who hate Trump and hate America will be there. After that, though, I hope there's a couple of sensible Democrats who will come to their senses over in the Senate and vote the right way to do the right thing that they have always done every time in the past in their career. They need to do it now for the people, for the American people.
You're half right there, Mike. You're half right. That crowd certainly does not hate America. It's quite the contrary. But they do hate Trump, many of them. Many of them do hate Trump. Many of them would be described to have TDS by the right and by some people in my life. The veracity of what they're doing, the justifiable nature of what they're doing, it is not lost on the GOP. So they have to come out with strong messaging and talking points to try to combat this huge movement, this huge statement against his dear leader. They understand. They understand that these people don't hate America. They get it. You know who else gets it? Who usually does get it is Bernie Sanders. Let's hear from Bernie.
No, Speaker Johnson, the No Kings rally on October 18th is not a hate America rally. In fact, it's quite the contrary. It's a love America rally. It's a rally of millions of people all over this country who believe in our Constitution, who believe in American freedom, and are not going to let you and Donald Trump turn this country into an authoritarian society. It's a group of people who are disgusted that you and your friends want to double healthcare premiums in this country and take healthcare away from 15 million Americans. The right to protest is what America is about. You are not going to stop us.
That's exactly right. That's what's at the heart of this right there, Bernie. The GOP knows damn well that these people do not hate America. They know that. They know that these people hate the administration's shift towards authoritarianism. The GOP also knows that it is the most American thing in the world for millions of people to put themselves at risk of violence from the federal government, retribution in some way from the administration, to put themselves at risk of those things, to say no, stop, no more. That is as American as it gets. Speaking out against injustices within your government and your country is as American as anything could possibly be. It is the most American. And this administration knows it, and they're scared of it.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Now back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts, no fluff.
What I've been urging is follow the money, cut off the money. And you look at this No Kings rally, and there's considerable evidence that George Soros and his network is behind funding these rallies, which may well be riots all across the country. And Soros is writing the check. And so I've introduced legislation called the Stop Funders Act that would add rioting to the list of predicate offenses for RICO. Why is that? Because it would let the Department of Justice use RICO, racketeering, to prosecute the money that is funding the anti-Semitic protests on campuses, the pro-open border protest in LA and other cities, and these No King protests. Anyone that is supporting rioting and violence, it lets you go after the money. And I'll tell you, there are more than 200 left-wing groups behind these No Kings rallies this weekend. They deliberately are blind to what each of the others are doing. That's part of how they avoid accountability. RICO is designed for precisely that sort of criminal enterprise. And so I believe the Senate, we ought to take up and vote on and pass our Stop Funders legislation. And I've urged both Pam Bondi at DOJ and Kash Patel at FBI, follow the money and prosecute those who are writing checks funding acts of violence, political violence or otherwise, across the country.
Man, Cruz is doing the DOJ's job for them. Look how this dude is aggregating all of their talking points and bringing it together. Trump and Bondi are saying Antifa is a terrorist organization. Akash Singh has given a memo to dozens of U.S. attorneys across the country to open an investigation into George Soros' Open Foundation Society. wanting to get them on RICO. Now, Ted Cruz is out here saying rioting should be under the RICO Act. Providing money to create riots purposefully should be under the RICO Act. And by the way, all of these funders of this No Kings rally, they're separate entities. But if we charge everybody under RICO, we can get them too. We're talking about those groups I just talked to you about. The American Civil Liberties Union, American Federation of Teachers, Human Rights Campaign, Indivisible, Move On. If he can, see, if they can successfully label Antifa, which is going to be any protesters they don't like, if they can label Antifa as terrorist, and then prove that these groups and George Soros' foundation are funding the No Kings rally, which are Antifa terrorists, well, then we can get them all on a RICO charge. You're funding together, you're funding rallies which are really terrorist riots by Antifa. We get you all. We do what we like to any dissent at the protests, any violence, anything at all at the protests themselves. You're terrorists. We'll handle you as we please. And we can prove that they're terrorists, so we can prove that anybody who funded this rally, this riot, they are terrorist funders. And if there's more than one of those groups, that's a RICO charge. Ted Cruz is out here doing the DOJ's job for him. He's holding their hand, taking them right down the path. Taking America right down the path. You see how we're getting here, America? We're coming for you, George. Bondi, they're right in lockstep. How do you think Bondi's going to respond to the No Kings rally? What do you think her rhetoric is going to mirror, sound like?
Well, sure, and that's one of the things about Antifa. You've heard President Trump say multiple times they are organized, they are a criminal organization, and they're very organized. You're seeing people out there with thousands of signs that all match, pre-bought, pre-put together. They're organized, and someone is funding it. We're going to get to the funding of Antifa. We're going to get to the root of Antifa, and we are going to find and charge all of those people who are causing this chaos in Portland and all these other cities across our country. Talk to all the influencers who have been threatened and beat up and their lives threatened from Antifa members. It's going to stop under Donald Trump.
I'd love to talk to him. I've never heard anybody say anything close to that ever. And I feel like if you have examples of Americans being beat up and tortured by Antifa, we would have heard from them. You would have pushed them out in front of the spotlight and we would have heard from them. Their situations would have been blown up and propagandized like you do everything else. No, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And you see what they're doing. It's becoming more and more clear as we aggregate these stories and bring them together, as we aggregate their talking points and bring them together. Is it clear what they're trying to do here? I think it's very clear. I think it's very, very clear. Governor Abbott, he's out here saying, yeah, we're going to activate our National Guard and we're going to send them to the protests in Austin. He didn't mention the protests in Houston, Lubbock, or McAllen, but he did say we're going to Austin. The National Guard is going to Austin, and they're going to be ready. He said he's directing the Texas Department of Public Safety to activate the Texas National Guard. Today, I directed the Texas Department of Public Safety and Texas National Guard to deploy all necessary law enforcement officials and resources to ensure the safety of Austin residents. Texas will deter criminal mischief and work with local law enforcement to arrest anyone engaging in acts of violence or damaging property. So again, I ask you, all of you, I'm begging you, not only don't take part in any violence yourself, do everything you can to stem or stop any violence around you. Do everything you can to be proactive in making these peaceful No Kings rallies. It has to be that way. The alternative is too dark. It has to be peaceful. There cannot be violence. Period. And hopefully we can avoid a situation like we had in Kenosha with an unidentified man in a black hoodie smashing the window of an AutoZone and trying to get it blamed on the peaceful protesters in the surrounding area. We still don't know who that was. God, I hope we can avoid one of those. I really, really do. I really, really do. Some good news. A judge has blocked the deployment of the National Guard to Illinois. That was the next move. The war zone in Chicago, that was their next move. For now, a judge has blocked it. It will go to the Supreme Court. It will. But for now, a judge has blocked it. That's not bad. That's a little bit of good news. You want to hear some more good news? I got some more good news for you. A judge, Judge Susan Ilston, she has blocked the firing of any more federal employees. Now, I dug all the way into this. This is a great article by the Wall Street Journal on this. And I dug all the way in, and I didn't see anything clear on what happens to the federal workers who were already fired. We detailed that. 4,000 plus workers out of the Department of Education, Department of Energy, EPA, some others, right? It's not clear what happens with those that are already fired. We're not sure. Probably, if this stands, they'll get rehired, I'm guessing. I don't know. But going forward, Judge Ilston has blocked the firing of any more federal employees. Trump and Vought, they're saying they're going forward. Trust me, they're saying that. But this judge has blocked it. The judge says, the Trump administration has taken advantage of the lapse in government spending and government functioning to assume that all bets are off, that laws don't apply to them anymore, and that they can impose the strict structures that they like on the government. They can impose the structures that they like on the government situation that they don't like. Weird wording there, but you get what she's saying. She was a Bill Clinton appointee, by the way. Some lawyers, so the labor union, I told you they were suing, right? And there's a couple groups representing the labor unions, the federal workers. There's a couple groups, and there was 2 separate lawsuits. I told you about the lawsuit that said, under the Anti-Deficiency Act, you can't spend any money. So a group of lawyers were saying the back pay, the severance, rather, that you would have to pay these RIFs, the severance alone constitutes an expenditure during a shutdown that violates the anti-deficiency law. There's a new argument, the one the judge liked. This argument was to conduct the RIFs takes work. And you can't have the government, the federal workers working during a shutdown on firing these people. Them working at all on these RIFs, that is a violation of the Anti-Deficiency Act. Not bad. These lawyers are good, man. They're clever. They're clever. Very clever. So, the White House, they are preparing for another round of firings. They're still preparing for it. Vought said that the administration planned to increase the number of layoffs to more than 10,000. So he's talking about more than 6,000 additional firings after this order. He said it will get much higher. We're going to keep those RIFs rolling throughout this shutdown because we think it's important to stay on the offense for the American taxpayer and the American people. Yeah, he's doing this for you, didn't you? Did we not make that clear, Scott? Vaught's doing this for you. The American people. The taxpayers. They're not firing all these federal workers because federal workers overwhelmingly contribute to Democratic candidates and overwhelmingly live in blue states and cities. No. That's not why they're doing it. This administration isn't hung up on retribution or anything. They're doing it for you. They're doing it for you. He's on the offense. Aggressive. We want to be very aggressive where we can, and we're going to shutter bureaucracy. He's attacking bureaucracy. He's aggressive with bureaucracy while he's threatening to not pay 750,000 furloughed workers, threatening to fire 6,000 more workers even after this judge's order to block it. Now, Ilston has ordered the Trump administration to file a detailed account of all of their RIFs to this point and all their RIFs that they're planning. And they have a little bit of time to adjust their strategy to conform to this judge's ruling. But make no mistake, it'll go to the Supreme Court like these things always do.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things. Fighting for America, one mic drop at a time.
All right, so a little bit of good news there, a little bit of good news as far as the judge's decision to block those firings. That's a good thing, for sure, no doubt. That's a good thing. But this thing continues. And it's funny because there's rumblings within the administration and the Republicans that they recognize the Democrats really have no reason to come to the table with no assurances. We're talking about the shutdown now, with no assurances that Donald Trump won't just ignore whatever deal they make. That's been a big problem. That's one of the main reasons that this is dragging on and there's no negotiations, because both sides recognize that Don is completely unhinged. And, you know, he blows past Congress when he claws back billions of dollars in funding for foreign aid and projects. He just claws back money wherever he sees fit, congressionally appropriated money. So congressmen, of course, know better than anybody, congressmen on both sides of the aisle know better than anybody that Don will just do what he wants. It doesn't matter what we say or what we appropriate. He's just going to do what he wants. So why would the Democrats even negotiate without some kind of ironclad assurance that whatever they get into the resolution will be adhered to? This is the big problem. This is the big problem. This is one of the main reasons we're doing this. For how many days now? 17. And by the way, yesterday was our 100th show, Scott. We didn't even mention it. Yesterday was our 100th show. And I just want to say thank you. Just want to say thank you to every single one of you guys. Thank you. So we're in day 17 of the shutdown. And this is one of the main reasons why we can't even begin to negotiate, because it's pretty much all being done in bad faith. And everybody knows it. Even Republicans know it. Even Lisa Murkowski knows it. Does it make it harder to come to terms on hard things like a government shutdown? Absolutely. Referring to Trump doing whatever he wants with the budget. That's what she said about that. And, you know, it was blocked for the 10th time. 10th time. 10 votes. The GOP spending bill blocked. There is no progress being made whatsoever on this. None. No progress. And one of the reasons is you got Mike Johnson out here saying these things.
It's a great question. Manu asks, why don't I change my strategy? I don't have any strategy, Manu. I'm doing the right thing, the clearly obvious thing, the traditional thing. That's exactly what Chuck Schumer voted for in March of this year and gave impassioned speeches was the right and only thing. I don't have anything to negotiate.
He's got nothing to negotiate. He did his job. He passed the Republicans' version of the resolution onto the Senate, put the pressure on them, closed down the House. We're not even going to bring the Democrats' version to the floor, and we're not going to swear in Grijalva. Remember that? Miss Grijalva, who won her father's seat in a special election, Democrat, and also openly the last signature needed for the Massey Kana discharge petition. She's going to be the last one needed. She's going to sign that thing. They're going to send it along. They're going to bypass little Mikey Johnson. They're going to bypass little Mikey and force a vote on it. Force a vote, this discharge petition. So Ms. Grijalva, she hasn't been sworn in yet. Right now, the House is in pro forma, which is what it's called when most of their members are gone and they have a skeleton crew in there to keep things rolling. And Mike Johnson's out here saying, well, we can't swear her in pro forma. That's not how we do things. When the Democrats open the government, we'll come back and we'll swear her in. I promise. Scout's honor. Meanwhile, Mike Johnson himself has sworn in 2 Republican reps during pro forma in the past. He's just full of crap. Completely full of crap. And the Dems are getting pissed about it. How do I know this? Because they're doing things like this. Marching to Mike Johnson's office. Swear her in. Swear her in. For those of you listening, that is a large group of Democrats, men and women, in front of Mike Johnson's office, demanding him to swear in Grijalva. All right. So they're pissed, and they're doing things like that. You may be inclined to call that theatrics. I actually see that as just exercising one of the few options they have left to make Johnson do the right thing. And Grijalva spoke about it.
Hi friends, Adelita Grijalva, your Congresswoman-elect. I'm here in DC, standing right outside of Speaker Johnson's office. I was certified today. Certified. That means the governor, the attorney general, and the Secretary of State have all said, yes, she won. And now they're asking Speaker Johnson, demanding that he swear me in. So that's why I'm here. I came with a lot of my colleagues from the Democratic caucus and the Women's caucus. They all joined me in asking, demanding that I get sworn in. I'm going to be here for 2 days. Speaker Johnson, you want to swear me in?
So, what are you going to do, Mike? We all know you can swear people in pro forma. You can do it today. You have all the power you need. There's nothing stopping you from doing it today, so why won't he? Why won't he do the people's bidding? The people have voted her in. Swear her in. And it's because he's playing games. Because he's a sneaky little snake in the grass with all that rouge on. He's a sneaky little snake in the grass who will absolutely say and do anything to further his dear leader's agenda in any way possible, or stop any agenda against his dear leader, like the discharge petition. And that shouldn't even be viewed as something against Trump, except Trump's DOJ and Trump's FBI are the ones standing in the way of the American people getting all of the evidence, all of the information. The discharge petition shouldn't be needed at all. So many Republicans, along with Democrats, want answers on this, want closure, want a little bit of justice for the survivors of this situation. A lot of people want it. It's very popular among all of us. There should be no need for a discharge petition. Trump's DOJ and FBI should just do the right thing, but they won't, so these theatrics are necessary. They have no choice but to do things like this. But the shutdown continues. Day 17. And I've told you a number of times, this is all about the perception battle. This all weighs on which side is perceived to be at fault. Which side can reach the American people's subconscious and have them understand my side, this side's at fault, or that side's at fault. Who can truly win this messaging war? Who can truly win it? That's what this all boils down to, because whoever loses the messaging war, they feel the pressure. They will feel the pressure in 2026. They know this. Whoever loses this messaging war, and whoever is losing the messaging war, will have to cave. If the Republicans lose the public perception war, they will have to add ACA subsidies. If the Democrats lose, they will have to sign the Republicans' clean resolution. That's what's at stake. Your health care. That's what's getting kicked around here. That's what's actually at stake. Why the Republicans would stand in the way of these subsidies extending, considering so many of their constituents use it? Well, they've always hated the ACA. They've tried to strike it down a number of times. Maybe this time, this strategy might actually kill it. We know that they've been against the ACA, Even Marjorie Taylor Greene's out here saying, I don't love the ACA. I've hated it since day one. But this shutdown is on the Senate Republicans. They can end this. It's within their powers to end this. If they have to put subsidies on it, then put subsidies on it. Because people who vote for me, they're enrolled in the ACA. Republican senators end this. Even MTG's out here saying that. But as far as this perception war goes, I got a little bit of bad news for you. It's not the worst news, but it's not great. It's not great. Before I give you these numbers, know that this is White House internal polling. And anything that comes out of this White House, you have to take at the very least with a grain of salt. You cannot trust Trump. You cannot trust numbers that come out of Trump's White House. You can't trust the BLS anymore. You can't trust the FBI or the DOJ. You can't trust the FHFA. You can't trust these people. You can't trust their numbers. So keep in mind this is internal White House polling. But they are touting it. They ran to Axios with these numbers. They couldn't wait to share these numbers with Axios. What numbers am I referring to? The latest polling, only 33% of voters view congressional Democrats favorably right now. 54 view them unfavorably. And that is a negative net of negative 21%. Now, the GOP also are viewed generally unfavorably by the voters, but their negative net is only 8% in comparison to the Democrats' 21%. 44% blame the shutdown on President Trump and the GOP. 38% blame the Democrats. That's good. That's good. But what's not great is that 38 who blame the Democrats, that has shifted. It was only 31 that blamed the Democrats just a few weeks ago. Now it's 38. That's going the wrong way. And senior administration officials are saying Trump won't negotiate with hostage takers in Congress because it inspires more hostage taking. Our research shows that people who know the most about the shutdown know that the Democrats aren't voting for a clean CR. So time is on our side. The administration, they think they're winning the perception war right now.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. You're back with Breck Breaks Things, where the truth hits harder than the headlines.
I wanted to come back with a correction. Sorry, as I got rolling, I said Kenosha, Wisconsin. It was actually Minneapolis where that AutoZone broken window agitating the crowd happened. Sorry, it was Minneapolis. But indeed, they don't know exactly who did it. At first, it was thought to be an undercover FBI agent. Undercover cop. Then they thought it might have been an Aryan. And in 2022, they reopened the investigation. Okay, so in 2022, the FBI kind of announced that they need help in this investigation, so they don't know who that is still. Just so we're clear about that story I mentioned and the possibility of agitators within these No Kings rallies, and that we had seen something like this before. When I mentioned that, so it was Minneapolis. I do apologize. Moving on. We're going to keep it moving. It's a Friday show. We're going to keep it Oscar Mike. We're going to keep it on the move. We told you we'd get to the Supreme Court's deliberation on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Just a little reminder how we got here. Just a little reminder. Now, this is specifically centered around majority-minority districts and the constitutionality of them. And that's what the Supreme Court is weighing on right now. And how this got there in 2020 in Louisiana, even though a third of the residents of Louisiana were black, only one of their 6 districts were Democratic, a minority district, a district that was represented by the minority vote, one district. Okay. So after the census, after the 2020 census, Louisiana revisited the maps and then gave a new one that still had just one black district. So, two groups of black voters sued them. A judge then agreed that this was unconstitutional and in violation of Section 2, violated the statute, and the lawmakers introduced a new map for the 2024 elections that included two black districts. They won, okay? But right after they won that, a group of white voters sued. They sued saying that the new 2024 map that had the two districts was unconstitutional. Okay? A panel of judges agreed with them and struck down the new map. And then the Supreme Court came in behind them, that panel, and paused their striking down of the map, allowing the map to go forward in that election. And the new district elected Cleo Fields out of Baton Rouge, black guy. That's how that played out. So those disenfranchised white voters took their case to the Supreme Court. That's how we got here. And it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. Set in stone how they're going to rule, and they will not rule for months. For months. But the majority conservative judges are leaning towards the opinion that race-based decisions on majority-minority districts should sunset. Certain laws based on race in the Voting Rights Act should sunset. That's what they're leaning towards. They're saying these decisions, they shouldn't be forever. That's what Kavanaugh said. Kavanaugh said, this court's cases, in a variety of contexts, have said that race-based remedies are permissible for a period of time, sometimes for a long period, decades in some cases, but that they should not be indefinite and should have an endpoint. See what Kavanaugh's doing there? He's talking about the macro. He's talking about all of these decisions that were race-based in terms of voting. They shouldn't be indefinite. But what he's really saying is, right here, right now, we're going to make it so this sunsets right now. He's speaking on race-based decisions in general, but what he's really doing is putting the kibosh on majority-minority districts, especially across the South. That's what he's doing. That's what he is doing. Make no mistake. There are lawyers on both sides. Edward D. Green, he represents the white voters who are disenfranchised. He argued on Wednesday that it was time to retire race as a consideration in redistricting. No need, right? We're past racism in this country. There's no need for this anymore. We're not racist. Congratulations, America. Edward D. Green, he feels like we're not racist anymore. We made it. We made it to the mountain. Dr. King. He said, in today's America, voters like the white plaintiffs were still being racially stereotyped to place them in particular electoral districts. But wait a second. You just said there's no more need for race-based districting because we're past racism. And then on the back end, you say, oh, and by the way, you're racially stereotyping my white plaintiffs. So there's no racism in terms of blacks being discriminated against. That doesn't exist anymore. No need. But by the way, you're still racially stereotyping my white plaintiffs. That's great. If it was ever acceptable under our colorblind Constitution to do this, it was never intended to continue indefinitely. Our colorblind Constitution. You mean the colorblind Constitution that said that blacks are 3/5 a person? You mean that colorblind Constitution? The one that said they can't vote and they can't own property? Is that the colorblind Constitution you're referring to? I'm just curious. There was dissent from the 3 liberal judges. Elena Kagan. She asked Miss Nelson, who is the president of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. She asked Miss Nelson What would happen if the key section of the Voting Rights Act were to cease to operate to prevent the dilution of minority votes? And Ms. Nelson responded, I think the results would be pretty catastrophic. We only have the diversity that we see across the South, for example, because of litigation that forced the creation of opportunity districts under the Voting Rights Act. She said it's very clear that the case law before this court supports the use of race as needed once there has been a showing of specified discrimination. Now that right there, it leaves a little wiggle room, because Hashem M. Mupan, that is our Deputy Solicitor General. Our Solicitor General is John D. Sauer. They represent their lawyers that represent the government in cases that see this in front of the Supreme Court. And she is representing the white plaintiffs in this. Make no mistake, but she said something interesting that even Kavanaugh thought was interesting. She suggested that the justices could leave the key provisions of the Voting Rights Act alone and leave it in place, but still change how voting maps are judged when determining if they illegally dilute minority voices. And she also suggested that the court could modify the test it uses to evaluate potential Voting Rights Act violations to give states more leeway to justify if the new maps were constitutional or the current maps. So what she's saying, and I actually don't hate this. I don't love it because it's a step in the wrong direction. No matter how you look at it, it's a step in the wrong direction. But I also don't hate it because at least we could salvage something from this possibly. If we could get the Supreme Court justices on board with the idea that Section 2 should stay, all right? We should still be able to create majority-minority districts. And maybe the way we evaluate the constitutionality of a map changes. Changes with the climate. Changes with our racial climate here in the country. Changes with the progression of American society. That I don't hate. If we could at least salvage that from the fire, that would be a small W. It would be a silver lining. Leave Section 2 in and change the way we evaluate the constitutionality of the maps. And even Kavanaugh said, that's a real innovation. That's a real innovation. Sonia Sotomayor, she doesn't think it's quite as clever and cute as Kavanaugh does. She said the bottom line of their argument would have the same result, to just get rid of the forcing of the Voting Rights Act to protect minority voters. I don't necessarily agree with Judge Sotomayor in this. I don't think it's an A straight to B thing. I think there is some nuance here. If you can get the justices on board with reevaluating the constitutionality, you may save Section 2 altogether. You might. And I don't think that is just getting rid of its effectiveness. I think it's keeping its effectiveness and adjusting when we use it. Again, I think that's a silver lining. I really do. So all is not lost. They will continue to decide on this. But the question is, will they punt this decision down the road long enough for it not to affect the 2026 midterms? Could we be spared losing anywhere between 12 and 19 Southern majority-minority districts straight to the Republicans? Could we be spared that before the midterms? Is that possible?
What about the timeline? A decision is expected next summer. So could this affect voting maps in the midterms?
So here's where I think the three liberal justices have a role to play. There is a tradition at the Supreme Court that they don't release an opinion until everyone has written their parts, including dissents. A dissenter can hold up the release of an opinion for months. That is just how it has worked for a very long time. I think that the liberal justices need to slow walk their dissenting opinions if the court is taking the step that I think it'll take, and ensure that this decision doesn't drop in January or February February, but drops in June or maybe even early July at the end of the term, because by that point, many of these states will have already had their primaries. These states will have already sort of locked in their lines for 2026. And so if the Liberals are able to slow roll this, then it wouldn't play a role in 2026 that much, but it would play a huge role in 2028. Democrats would essentially start off the next set of House races at a massive disadvantage to where they are now.
Not too bad. Not too bad. If they kick the can long enough, we may get to the 2026 midterms without this decision affecting those elections. That would be another silver lining. I mean, what are we facing ultimately with this? The gutting of Section 2 is what we're ultimately facing. The gutting of Section 2 would flip anywhere between 12 and 19 majority-minority blue districts red. That, coupled with the redistricting efforts in red states going on already, we could be facing up to 27 districts flipping. If that should happen, I want to be very clear. If that should happen, there will be a generation of Americans who don't remember a democratically held House. That's how long it would take to flip it back blue. If we were to lose 27 seats, make no mistake about this, that could go on for generations. I am not exaggerating. I am not exaggerating. That is way too many seats to lose. Let alone the effect on the Black Caucus. Let alone the effect on the Hispanic Caucus. There will literally be Americans who weren't alive when, voting, who weren't alive when the Democrats last held the House. That is a very, very real possibility. I am going to go into overtime, by the way. I want to put that out there. By the way, about these seats switching, the National Republican Congressional Committee, they won't say anything. No comment. The Republican National Committee declined to comment. The White House, even loudmouth degenerate Abigail Jackson, no comment. We're coming back for overtime. One more segment, kids. Thanks for staying with me.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Breaking news, breaking rules, breaking through. Back to Brett Breaks Things.
Okay. So this last segment, this overtime, we're going to focus on a situation that is rapidly heating up. And I want to get to the details of exactly how this is playing out before it starts to actually happen. I want you, the audience, to be prepared, what they're saying, what they're doing. I don't know if you heard, but another 6 people have been killed in the 5th strike on a Venezuelan drug boat. 5 strikes now. 6 more people dead. 27 people in total have been killed since these strikes have begun. 27. This time, Trump came out and said intelligence confirmed the vessel was trafficking narcotics and was associated with illicit narco-terrorist networks and was transitioning along a known route for smuggling. That's what Trump said. Now, he did not identify the nationality of the people who were killed, did not name any specific drug cartel, did not name any even criminal gang that they may be associated with. Nice and vague. No guidelines, no guardrails, no limitations going forward on who you can blow up by your own admission, right? If they keep it vague, they don't have to adhere to anything they said. If they say, we're at war with Tren de Aragua, well, that doesn't cover MS-13. And if they say we're at war with Tren de Aragua and MS-13, then that doesn't include some other cartel that they'd like to strike right here and right now. But if they keep it vague, there's no limitations on who they kill. He's saying these killings are consistent with the laws of war. This is the drum I've been banging. This is the drum I've been banging. This is the situation I've been tying in with what we have going on domestically, with the protesters, with the federal troops and federal agencies cracking down on neighborhoods and crime-ridden zones in our war zone cities like Washington and Chicago, both reporting decreases in crime year over year for almost a decade. Last month, after the first strike, he said it was self-defense. Remember? He sent a little memo to Congress. Now, he says he's at war with these cartels, but to go to war, you need congressional approval. Not this guy. He informs Congress after the fact. Do the thing, then ask for forgiveness later, but not even ask for forgiveness, just inform you as a little courtesy. Not waiting for Congress to approve any of my actions. It's not like we're America or anything. I'm just going to do these things. Maybe I'll give you a little memo later. And that's what he did. After the first strike, he gave him a little memo saying he did this in self-defense. Then, after a strike on the 15th killed 3 people, he changed it a little bit. He changed it. And he said, we are in an armed conflict, a war with various Latin American cartels and gangs. They are terrorists. They are unlawful combatants. They are non-state combatants like Al-Qaeda, like we waged war on Al-Qaeda. They're across multiple countries. They're non-state. So we get to kill them wherever we see them. That is the explanation he gave to Congress after the 15th. Now, keep in mind, Congress has not authorized any of this. Even Congress authorized us to go to war after 2001, after 9/11. Congress authorized us to go to war. And the Supreme Court upheld that. You know, checks and balances, how our government works or used to work. Congress hasn't authorized any of this. And even the permits and the laws, even the laws that permit, rather, the president or the executive branch to label a group terrorists, they don't convey legal authority to just kill them. It's usually used to do things like freeze assets, hobble them, label them, and try to prosecute anybody involved with them. The law that he's using does not give him permission to just unilaterally kill people and say they're terrorists later. But that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. As far as the self-defense goes, the government, the legal counsel for the administration, has not offered any explanation how boats off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean Sea constitutes a clear and present danger to American people right here, right now. Haven't even offered up an argument. Haven't even tried. And they also haven't even tried to explain how smuggling an illicit product counted as some sort of hostility that would explain violating international law and shifting the way they deal with these people from a human rights issue to an armed conflict. They haven't even tried to explain it. How these drug smugglers are armed combatants in a war. They haven't tried. Now, I'm going to read you what President Trump said about these things. And I want to remind you, before I read this, about our little Stephen Miller slip-up. Was that earlier this week, Scott? Was that like, did we go into that Monday? We never played it, but right. No, we played Miller and his plenary authority slip-up. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The plenary authority. Remember that? We played the video, got into it. People like that show. People like that show. Plenary authority. Total unitary control over the military is what Stephen Miller was talking about on accident in that interview. Remember that while I tell you this. Under my standing authority as commander-in-chief, this morning, the Secretary of War ordered a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel affiliated with a designated terrorist organization conducting narco trafficking in the U.S. Southcom area of responsibility just off the coast of Venezuela. There it is. There's the plenary authority that Stephen Miller told us himself Trump operates the military under. He just says it, and they do it. Congress doesn't need to be involved in this. He tells Pete Hegseth, order the strike. Pete orders the strike. That's simple. Plenary authority. He tells people to send their troops to a state, and they do it. When they challenge it, it goes to his Supreme Court, and they uphold what Trump wants to do, the deployment. Plenary authority. Plenary authority. That is what he is using here to kill Venezuelans off the coast of their country. That is what he's using. And it's not just Venezuelans, by the way. It's not just Venezuelans. Chad Joseph, he's a 26-year-old from Trinidad Tobago. He was living in Venezuela. He had told his family that he and his neighbor Samaro, that's the guy's last name, I don't really have his first name, but the neighbor of this family, of Joseph's family in Trinidad, this guy Samaro was also in Venezuela working with Chad. Chad told his family, I'm getting on a boat with Samaro and I'm coming home. Samaro never made it home. Chad never made it home. Then, shortly after this strike on that fifth boat, social media started rumbling and people were saying, yeah, it's this guy and his friend, his neighbor. They were on that boat. They were blown up. How would the government know? They're not conducting any investigations. What if Chad and Samaru aren't drug traffickers? What if they're friends of these guys? What if, let's just assume they were trafficking drugs. Okay, we'll just go ahead and assume that. What if these two guys were just friends of theirs? And this boat was heading to or past Trinidad. And they got a ride to go be home with their families. And Trump blew them up. You see, the military has blown up 5 boats and killed 27 people. And despite this death toll, not one authority has come out publicly and released the names of any of the deceased. You don't deserve that explanation, American people. We'll just go to war with who we see fit. We'll blow up who we see fit using your tax dollars, and you get no explanation. You don't deserve one. Plenary authority, you see. He just does things. He just does things. And if you don't like it, you can leave. You don't like it, kick rocks. Plenary authority. And this is not uncommon. This is happening. This is happening in a number of places. On the heels of these strikes, other people are realizing through social media and other reports and rumors that it might be their loved ones that are killed. And in Venezuela itself, see, Venezuela also is trying to suppress this information. They're trying to suppress this information. Now, I'll tell you what they're doing in response to what the U.S. is doing in the region. I'll get to that. But know that ultimately, Venezuela does not want this smoke. And they don't want their own people making the situation worse. So in true Venezuelan fashion, they're suppressing their populace. There was a village in particular, San Juan de Unare. San Juan de Unare. That's a village in Venezuela. And it looks like 11 of the people that have been killed in these boat strikes may have come from this village. And when all of their young men stopped showing up after these strikes, they started going on social media asking if anybody knows anything about it. Some people had been responding, yes, it's your people that are being killed. They went to social media, they talked about it. Well, right after they went to social media, the Venezuelan government descended on their village, cut off their electricity, deleted every post they had in the last week or so, and told them to shut up. And that is the posture they are using with all the rest of the victims' families. They don't want this smoke. They don't want tensions rising. It's not what they want. So they're suppressing the information as well. right along with the Trump administration. Nobody knows nothing about your loved ones that are getting blown up. Nobody is coming out saying who these people were. No investigations. Could just be a couple kids getting a ride back home. Chad's mother said, I don't want to believe it's my son, but how the heck could I know? And yeah, the smoke that Venezuela doesn't want, it's in the form of this massive buildup. There was an aviation's training exercise just off the coast of Venezuela recently. The 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment was performing training maneuvers just off the coast of Venezuela, spotted by their air traffic control towers and residents. It included little birds, MH-6 little birds, and attack helicopters like MH-60s, Blackhawks. Now, the purpose of these particular helicopters is twofold. It is to insert operators inside the country, right? And provide close air support to any military operations on the ground. On the ground. That's what these helicopters are for. They came off of what people are speculating right now is the MV Ocean Trader, which is a giant commercial vessel that was reconfigured into a stealthy floating special operations base that has 200 personnel on it. 150 of those personnel are dedicated to special missions. Oh yeah. 10% of all deployed U.S. naval power right now is in that region. That is a seismic shift in where our naval power is stationed. A seismic shift. Submarine, fleet of destroyers, F-35 jet fighters, B-52 strategic bombers, 3 of them. A number of C-17 Globemaster large transportation aircraft are in the area. Why? That's quite a buildup of forces, not just to police the area, but these are forces specialized in ground operations. Specialized in it. Now, Caracas, Venezuela, they are not defenseless, and we'll get into it. They are not defenseless. In terms of these helicopters, specifically, some military officials, advisors, and intelligence is saying that Caracas has a lot of Russian-made systems, including specifically long-range S-300 missile launchers that could fire at our aircraft before they hit the coast, and short-range, shoulder-launched missiles like the SA-24, which are specialized. They can move around quickly, hard to detect, and have special heat-seeking features that are perfect for shooting down helicopters. They do have some of these things, and they've got a lot of anti-aircraft guns. More gifts from Russia. Now, before I continue to discuss this ramp up of the forces and Venezuela's response, it's important to know that there was a bipartisan measure, first, to block Trump's strikes on these fishing boats. There was a bipartisan measure, and it fell short in the Senate last week, 51-48. Didn't pass. And now there is a new measure led by Adam Schiff, Tim Kaine, and Rand Paul, Republican Rand Paul. And that is to ban any hostilities in Venezuela without congressional approval. I dare Republicans to not vote for that. I dare you. How could you not? You are the Congress he's stepping over. You are the ones he is ignoring. United States cannot go to war with somebody without congressional approval. Hard stop. How could you possibly vote against a measure to block any war in Venezuela without congressional approval? Congress, Republicans in Congress, how could you possibly not vote for this? I dare you all to not vote for this. I dare you all to tribally just vote along party lines against it. I dare you. I dare you. The optics on that will be horrible. You want to talk about plenary authority going forward? Let him keep doing this stuff and have the people he's stepping over say, it's okay, Don, continue doing what you're doing. We're the ones you're slapping in the face. We're the ones you're ignoring. We are the Congress of the congressional approval that you are ignoring. Go ahead and do your thing. You want to talk about plenary authority? That's what Stephen Miller is talking about. You want to talk about troops on the ground in Venezuela? Trump came out himself and admitted that the CIA has already been authorized to perform covert missions inside Venezuela. Yep. He just came out and said it. Maduro. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Scotty. Yep. Thank you, Scotty. You got to hear what this guy says. I can't blow past it.
Why did you authorize the CIA to go into Venezuela? And is there more information you can share about these strikes on the alleged?
Well, I can't do that, but I authorized for two reasons, really. Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. They came in through the, they came in through the border. They came in because we had an open border policy. And as soon as I heard that, I said, a lot of these countries, they're not the only country, but they're the worst abuser. And they've entered they've allowed thousands and thousands of prisoners, mental institution, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, emptied out into the United States. We're bringing them back, but that's a really bad, and they did it at a level that probably not, many countries have done it, but not like Venezuela. They were down and dirty. And the other thing are drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela.
So there you have it. The rhetoric out of our president is ramping up, and the CIA is now conducting operations. Now, the CIA, their operations are generally threefold. Any one of these or all three may be happening right now inside Venezuela. Clandestine information gathering operations. I'll let your imagination run wild on what clandestine information gathering could consist of. Training guerrilla operation forces. That's one of the CIA's specialities in the South American region. And conducting lethal strikes. James Bond, anyone? Yeah. I guess it'd be XXX. Is he the American version of James Bond? I don't know. Who's the American version of James? Oh, Jason Bourne, right? It'd be Jason Bourne. All right. Jason Bourne. Think Jason Bourne. There you go. Thanks, Scott. We got there. Maduro has been saying a lot of things. His foreign ministry is saying things. His top lieutenants are saying things. There is a response to all of this that's going on. Maduro said in a televised speech, he said, "How long will the CIA continue to carry on with its coups? Latin America doesn't want them, doesn't need them, and repudiates them." His foreign ministry came out with extreme alarm to Trump's announcement, calling it a grave violation of international law and the UN's charter. Yeah, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. That's their actual name. And the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is a UN member. Keep that in mind. Their foreign ministry also denounced the U.S. operations in the Caribbean, which it said constitute a policy of aggression, threats, and harassment against Venezuela. It also accused Trump of trying to legitimize a regime change operation to seize Venezuela's oil resources. The ministry said it would bring a complaint before the UN Security Council yesterday, Thursday. They brought the complaint at the UN. So what are they talking about, right? Is that rhetoric? Is that hyperbole out of the Venezuelan foreign ministry that the United States is considering regime change so they can get their hands on some oil? No, that is not just rhetoric. Why do I sound so sure about that? Because Trump's top security advisors have been feuding for months over whether to depose Maduro or not. It's an active discussion within our government, within our administration, within the top security advisors in our government. It is an active, ongoing discussion. Should we overthrow Maduro? Secretary of State Lil Marco Rubio advocating for overthrowing Maduro. CIA Director John Radcliffe also advocating for overthrowing Maduro. And if John Radcliffe, the CIA director, thinks we should overthrow Maduro, and he's the one that green lights any, what was the term? Conducting lethal strikes. If he's the one who oversees that, green lights that, sleep lightly, Maduro. Sleep lightly, bud. Sleep lightly. Yeah, I'm telling you, the helicopters, the specialized troops, CIA on the ground, this is all building up to something. It's all building up to something. And it's something that Trump himself has even acknowledged could possibly happen.
The next step in this war on cartels, and are you considering options, are you considering strikes on land?
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control. We've had a couple of days where there isn't a boat to be found. And that, I view that as a good thing, not a bad thing. But we had tremendous amounts coming in by boats, by very expensive boats. You know, they have a lot of money, very fast, very expensive boats that were pretty big.
Quickly, bigly.
And the way you look at it is every boat that we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. So every time you see a boat and you feel badly, you say, wow, that's rough. It is rough, but if you lose 3 people and save 25,000 people, these are people that are killing our population. Every
boat is worth 25,000 American lives. That is Trump math for you right there. Just nonsensical. Just say things. Just say numbers. Just say things. That's all. Just say things. That's all you got to do. Yeah, it's my phone. So, you know what's interesting about this? Caracas is still receiving plane loads, about 2 a week, of deportees from the U.S., from their country. Venezuelans illegally in this country, 2 a week, 2 plane loads a week are still going into Caracas, unabated, no change, no stoppage. Very, very odd. I think that does lead to Venezuela ultimately doesn't want this smoke. If there's going to be any escalation of this situation, it's going to be from the U.S., not from Venezuela, even in terms of this. U.S.'s immigration deportation policy. So, yeah, the plane loads are still going in. And you know what's really interesting? There's this guy, Richard Grenell. He is the president's special missions envoy. He has been in talks with Maduro about Venezuela giving up a portion of their rare minerals and oil assets, reducing their ties to China and Russia, all in exchange for the U.S. making this go away. We'll pull our fleet out. We'll stop with the training exercises. We'll put the F-15s, F-35s back in the hangar. We'll do all of this. We'll let this go if you give us your oil, give us your minerals, and stop being friends with China and Russia. Well, Trump himself, last week sometime, told Richard, knock it out. Knock it off. Cut that noise. We're done with that. Whatever's happening is going to happen. Whatever this is ramping up towards, it's going forward. So, Richard, just come home. I appreciate you trying to get their oil for us, but your job is done there. No more negotiations. And Venezuela is preparing. They are flat out preparing for war. Not only have they built up their troops on the coast, but they are spinning up their propaganda machine. They are ramping it up. They are firing it up. They have moved a ton of troops to the coast. They've gone on television, radio, social media, talking about the U.S. is a rapacious Nazi-like state that wants to dig its claws into its country's oil. And the National Bolivian Armed Forces, and they are named after Simon Bolivar, great revolutionary in South America, probably the most prominent figure in South American history. They've named their armed forces after him, the National Bolivian Armed Forces, and they are prepared to repel any invasion. They've got 125,000 soldiers in their army, and they have called up their National Guard, what is basically a militia of its population. And they are ramping up these videos. They're sending out these videos of this militia, which is made up of kind of elderly people and people who aren't really in fighting shape, running through obstacle courses, firing their weapons, crawling underneath barbed wire. They're doing the whole thing. They're showing videos of their jet fighters flying across the sky, and Maduro is talking to his people. He says the people are ready for combat, ready for battle. Raise your hands if you want to be a slave to the gringos. If you want peace, then get ready to earn peace. And he's got these top lieutenants, one Diosdado Caballo, all right? He's like their vice president, and Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez, they're like his number 2 and 3, right? They're the top lieutenants. They're out here spinning up the propaganda, cranking it up. Caballo said, it's important the world knows that Venezuela is a country of peace, but we are fierce beasts when we have to defend it. Here's the truth. Here's why Venezuela doesn't want this smoke. Here's the truth of the matter. And some of this is from a guy named Edward Rodriguez, who is a former colonel now exiled in the United States. See, that in itself is one of the big problems. The economy is in free fall. When 2026 hits, it's estimated by the IMF that their inflation will hit 682%. Oh, yeah. And their military is in shambles. Experienced officers like Edward Rodriguez here, they have been forced into exile, fired, or unalived to ensure that Maduro only has loyalists around him and in the government. So many of his experienced generals, soldiers, they've been let go, exiled, or killed. Okay? Their officers, because of their economy, because of the struggles in their economy, their officers are poor, their soldiers rather are poorly fed. And they even lack logistical supply lines to get any food they do have to any soldiers at the front line of fighting. They just don't have the logistics. They don't have the officers. They don't have the food. They don't have the soldiers. They don't have the equipment ultimately. It's a smokescreen. They don't want this. By the way, Mr. Caballo came out and said, oh, and by the way, thanks, Trump, for telling us that the CIA was conducting operations in our country. At least there's that. That's the first time you let us know, so there's that. Well done, Trump. And finally, while all of this is happening in the Southcom, Southern Command, Admiral Alvin Halsey, who was the commanding officer of the entire operation, he stepped down. He's only 2 years into his post, and he has stepped down. He stepped down. Now, he didn't talk a lot of trash. He didn't say a whole lot. He told his soldiers under his command, keep charging. It's the only statement. Sailors, I'm sorry. Thank you, sailors. Under his command, keep charging. That's all he said, keep charging. That's all he said. 37-year career. Pete Hegseth said, on behalf of the Department of War, we extend our deepest gratitude to Admiral Alvin Halsey for his more than 37 years of distinguished service to our nation as he plans to retire at year's end. If you aren't on board with our new philosophy of the Department of War and Trump's plenary authority in the use of it, get out. Leave. And that's just what Alvin's done. People that are close to him said, yeah, it's because of this. He had big problems conducting these strikes. He tried to stand in the way. He tried to make them not happen. He complained, but did them. And this is why he's stepping down. He's had enough. And I just want to remind you, just a quick reminder, Mr. Halsey, who is black, has stepped down. This in the wake of Joint Chiefs of Staff General Charles Q. Brown, who is black, getting fired. The first woman to command the Navy, Navy Admiral Lisa Franchetti, fired. U.S. military representative to NATO Military Committee, Vice Admiral Shoshana Chatfield, fired. Pushed out Lieutenant General Krause, fired. General David Alvin, who's the Air Force's top uniform officer, he just quit as well. All the best people are quitting. All the best U.S. attorneys are quitting. All the best prosecutors are quitting. People with integrity are quitting. They don't want to be a part of this. We're going to war with Venezuela, is basically what I'm telling you. I have been accused recently of being alarmist. I'm actually trying to be honest. I'm just trying to be honest. And this isn't I'm not trying to predict anything here. I just feel like we're going to war with Venezuela. Pam Bondi, just a couple months ago, doubled the bounty on Maduro's head to $50 million. They have the largest oil reserve in the world. Trump's out here calling him the head of a terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua. And now we're conducting covert operations within their borders. I'm not trying to make some grand prediction. I just feel like we're about to go to war. No kings tomorrow. No kings tomorrow. No kings.gov or .org. No kings.org. Good luck, guys.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back Monday to break it all down.